We are going live. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our special edition on Focus Nigeria. That is still part of the series, The State of the Nation, on Genje Media TV. Tonight, we turn our attention to a major development that has drawn global concern, the CPC redesignation of Nigeria by the United States of America, and the grave implication it holds for our nation's sovereignty, stability, and security. Just days ago, the US government, under President Donald Trump, relisted Nigeria as a country of particular concern, CPC, citing widespread ethno-religious killings and government inaction. The situation has escalated following a statement from the US president threatening direct military intervention if Nigeria fails to halt the killings and restore order. In Nigeria, many have argued about the semantics of genocide and mass killing. With the clock ticking, a key voice has re-emerged. That is the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, or as many know, called NINAS, led by a constitutional lawyer and advocate, an advocate that many people know, Tony Nnadi. NINAS insists that the only viable way to avert US military action and save Nigeria from total collapse is through immediate adoption of its 5-point proposition, a roadmap for constitutional reconstruction and political transition. Joining us tonight is Barrister Tony Nnadi, a respected constitutional lawyer, strategic leader of NINAS movement, and one of the key figures who engaged with the US policymakers during the first CPC designation in 2020. We will be exploring the meetings of the US redesignation and the NINAS 5-point proposition and the urgent steps for Nigeria to take to avoid what could now become one of the most consequential international crises in history. Tony, you're welcome to this conversation this evening. Okay. I believe network has just yanked. Okay, he's back. Yeah, Tony, you're welcome. Your camera is, you just, can you turn your camera upside, turn your camera right, please? And unmute. After your introduction. Okay, go ahead now.
Is it showing now?
Yes, but your camera is flipped. You're upside down.
No, I didn't touch it at all. It just whatever is happening from the other end. I'm not touching the camera at all.
Yes, but you went out and you came back. I believe that's your internet. And you
maybe the internet. Okay, let's see whether it adjusts.
Yes, better now. Okay. Yes, that's correct. Go ahead now.
Right. So as it were, thank you and welcome viewers. Where we are is a situation where we had all the time in the world to fix this problem. We refuse to fix it. Those who might be affected by it began to tell us, please fix this thing before it blows up because it will spill to our space. Still, they didn't listen. Then they began to engage. I'm talking about the US now. When we told them what we knew, because you remember they were at war with ISIS in 2016, 17, 18, getting to that 19. And so what was happening was that as they were pushing the terror networks of the Middle East, I want our people to understand that it is the US national security interests, in fact, national security imperative that is behind all of their concern now, something that can harm them, but happening in our space for now. We'll come back to them if it is not arrested where it is now. And so They were fighting with ISIS and Al-Qaeda and the rest of them in the Middle East. When the heat became too much, those entities began to migrate to the Sahel. And in that period, Buhari was struggling to become President. Buhari, a known sympathizer of radical Islam. Buhari, you remember when Boko Haram was doing their havoc and Jonathan came under pressure enough to want to meet with them in Saudi Arabia? Remember, they nominated Buhari as one who will speak for them. You remember when Buhari went to molest Lamadation as governor in Oyo State? In his capacity as life grand patron of Miyetti Allah, he hadn't become president, civilian president. He had been a military head at the time and contesting the election to become president again. So in all that period, he was a champion of Boko Haram cause. He was grand patron of Miyetti Allah that was taking credit and responsibility for the activities of Fulani herdsmen, which had at the time been designated, recognized as the fourth most deadly terror group in the world, with Boko Haram occupying the number 2 position. And so Nigeria was hosting the 2 of the 4 most deadly terror groups on earth. And Buhari was directly connected to the 2, because as life grand patron of Miyetti Allah, that was sponsoring the Fulani herdsmen very proudly and openly. Remember when Buhari took 100 billion from the treasury and handed to Miyetti Allah? What were they going to do with the money? And so that was the backdrop against which we began to look for, because we were the indigenous peoples of Nigeria were the victims of what was happening. Because Buhari, the Fulani, through our borders open, I'm saying things that are in the public space. Everybody knew when they happened, that Buhari threw our borders open to bring in Fulani from wherever they would come. And as they were coming in, the one who had to receive them and document them was
project here. Was it actually Buhari that threw the borders open, or was it ECOWAS protocol that allowed free movement within the sub-region?
No, there was ECOWAS protocol all the while, but he then said you don't require any kind of that. When you come, they will document you. And so the Fulani poured in from everywhere, and the man who had to put them on our database was a known terrorist himself, Pantami, that they had given ministerial appointment. So it was basically a Fulani conquest agenda that was being driven by their champion called Muhammad Buhari, who was now presiding over our military, who was now our oil minister selling the crude. So the sovereign assets of Nigeria were being passed on to these terror networks that were converging here. And that was what we went to tell the US at the time, to say, look, you are at war with these people. You think you are beating them, because Trump had in January of 2019 declared victory over ISIS in the war. And so we went to tell them, say, no, that you've not crushed them in the manner you thought you had. They had merely relocated to the West African sub-region. Buhari, our president in Nigeria, is their chief host. Here is evidence of what is being done to bring them in here and put them, spread them around and equip them for what they were doing, to overrun the place. The Fulani that were also looking for how to take over Nigeria to become their land were in that joint venture with the terror networks that were looking for a sovereign space. You saw what happened in Afghanistan. The terror networks were looking for a sovereign space, the kind of thing they would have done with Syria and Iraq if they were not pushed out. They wanted to create a caliphate, a sovereign space from where they could tackle the rest of the world. So when they were not succeeding with Syria and Iraq, West Africa became the next place. And they were targeting, Nigeria was a hub, but they were going to take Niger, they were going to take Mali, they were going to take Burkina Faso and the entire neighborhood. And so that was what we went to tell the US, to say, look, we have, if you will listen to us, that was in January 2019, if you will listen to us, we have something that can solve this national security question for you that is brewing in our space. They say, what is it? There was an emergency press conference in January of 2019, 17th of January. If you search around YouTube, the internet, particularly YouTube, you will see where the first alarm was raised to the global community that the terror networks of the Middle East have converged in West African sub-region, with Nigeria as their hub, and that if the rest of the world will not come now so that we can arrest them, because we have a formula by which they could be arrested, that they will incubate to the point where they will take over this entire sub-region, something bigger than Syria and Iraq combined, with the oil and gas assets of Nigeria, and the maritime assets of Nigeria, and the sovereign assets. That is what is it that Nigeria owns that will now be under their control, like they've taken over in Afghanistan. You can see that the ones now deciding what Afghanistan will do, no matter what anybody thinks anywhere. And so they now said,
let me interject quickly here. If you, for 1 minute here, for people to follow us here.
Yes.
The first CPC designation happened in 2020 during the first term of Donald Trump. Now, just in 1 minute, could you explain to us why do you believe Nigeria has been placed back on that same list here in 2025?
Trump was the president that commissioned the interface with us when we came to tell them that we have something that will solve, because it was the biggest national security problem. It was the biggest problem they had at the time before COVID now came. COVID, set everybody away from where they were going. But up to the point COVID arrived, it was the terror war that the US had in its hand. And we had come to tell them that the people they were pushing back have relocated to somewhere where they are reinforcing. They are going to become more than 5-10 times larger than they used to be if they manage to secure what Buhari was pushing for them to secure here. And so it was in that listening to us that they decided to interrogate what we had brought, to say the Constitution of Nigeria, which was imposed by elements from that caliphate, which has now tied the hands of the rest of us back, putting all the guns in their hands, putting all the oil and gas assets of Nigeria in their hands, and now they have one of their own that have become the president. And so there's nothing standing their way from, confiscating this entire space to do what ISIS wanted to do with Syria and Iraq in the Middle East. And so it became interesting to them to say, okay, what is it? What do you say need to be? They were telling us that it was farmers and herdsmen clashing. We had the privilege of having to go to explain that it is not the case. I did speak in Congress, both in the House, at the committee that was now checking out the information we had brought, at the House and in the Senate. And when we had established that those false that farmers and herders clashing was a false narrative or climate change or communal clash, which was what Nigeria was marketing for over 30 years to them. And therefore, you remember when they say it was poverty in the Northeast. And so Buhari dedicated all the finances available to say, let us go and build the economy up and all such nonsense. But they took their time to listen, and they came to the realization that there was no such thing, that it was just an ethnic conquest agenda wearing the garment of jihad. Look at it. It is the Fulani doing it, but they had to disguise it as a religious war. If you look at Zamfara, they are Muslims, Kebbi, Katsina, they are Muslims, but they are being killed. And so it was just a matter of a joint venture between the Fulani that wanted sovereign space to own and get a homeland, and the terror networks that wanted a sovereign space from where they could operate globally. And so we told the US that the Constitution of Nigeria is what has tied the hands of the owners of Nigeria back, because the Fulani are invading from outside. They don't own any square inch of land in Nigeria.
Now let's make this clarification. You've been, when Trump speaks, he talks about Christians
killing of Christians.
Exactly. But when you are talking, you are narrowing it down only to one ethnic nationality. Isn't that a misnomer for of sort? Because if we're saying, even people are arguing that it is not actually only the killing of Christians, and you highlighted it now, that even Muslims, you mentioned states in the north where Muslims are being killed. Isn't it better in the a better nomenclature to say that Nigerians are being killed unabated, but not
By who?
well by terrorists, because we call them by their name. Are they not terrorists? And
If they are terrorists, but the information, everything we went to tell them in Washington, they already had in their intelligence community. The thing that made the radical difference, for which reason they moved very quickly, for which reason they subjected it to congressional scrutiny, for which reason they moved to putting Nigeria on the watch list in that period and culminating in the CPC designation, which is now threshold for action in this space. It was because we told them that all the while, most people have been perceiving it as killing of Christians by Muslims, but it goes beyond that. That is the Fulani that is wearing the garment of Islam with their cohorts from the Middle East to just disguise it. It is Fulani conquest agenda. The only thing is that the lands they target to take, particularly throughout the Middle Belt and into the South, which they target to take everything. All of us in the South, most of us in the South are no less than 98%. Of course, Yoruba can be Christian and Muslim at the same time, but on the whole, the majority of the South, clear majority, no less than 80% Christians. Middle Belt, no less than 70% if you were to take parchments of them, even in that upper north. Southern Kaduna, that is 2/3 of Kaduna, 100% Christian. Gombe, almost 80%. Borno, Chibok, and all of that. The area that is Christian in Borno is almost the size of your southeast. Borno alone. The land area that is Christian, when you hear about Chibok and all the areas, and you go all the way to the other extreme in Kebbi, these are the southern fringes of the so-called Sharia belt. They are all Christian. And so it was because these people who were targeted, you saw that Reverend Pastor Ezekiel, the one that was crying out from inside the grave of the people they were about to bury. You understand? Yes. Most of them were Christians who were being killed, but they were not being killed because they were Christians only. They were being killed because they were not Fulani. That's the difference. That's the point. So, anybody who will address this problem
by that argument. So yes. What you're saying is, in that mass killing, that it may not have only been Christians that were killed, that they could have been any other person, Muslims also being killed in that region.
Yeah, but very, very much so. But it is basically the U.S. had to act within their laws. So the law, what they saw as the law under which they could begin to handle because the problem will come back to them if they don't find any answers at all. So it was the International Religious Freedom Act that was the law we did. I'm reporting to us what I was personally involved in discussing with the very people in the executive branch and in the legislative branch. It was in the office of Senator Ted Cruz. His office was the coordination. The act under which the law under which the U.S. could do whatever they are planning, whatever they're doing now, including the one Trump says he would do. That law is called International, Religious Freedom Act. Mm-hmm. The man who championed it in Congress is a gentleman called Frank Wolf. He was so much a champion of it that the law was named, when it was passed, is now called Frank Wolf Act. That is the law under which the U.S. is doing everything it's doing now, and the one it will do. And so when we explained all of this, it was easy for the U.S. to see that they could begin to tackle the matter in the manner of putting Nigeria on the watch list and putting Nigeria as a country of particular concern, meaning that the U.S. was pointing at the people in government house as the ones sponsoring the terror.
Okay. Now, at this point, the question is, if we move back to America here, I'll ask you this question: how serious is the threat of direct U.S. military action? Now, again, not against Nigerians, but against the terrorists in Nigeria. Do you think is merely a diplomatic pressure or something Nigerians should prepare for a real possibility of any sort of escalation? Bearing in mind that the president, who sometimes feels so unbothered when all these things happen, is planning to jet off to United States of America to meet the United States vice president tomorrow. So do you think this is indeed a real threat, or is it just to rattle the Nigerian government?
I don't want to alarm anybody, but I will be unfair to the people listening now if I do not report to them that it is as real as Trump said it. Because as at the time they put Nigeria on that CPC list in March of 2020, we had finished with them in July. They had identified our constitution as the problem, which if we said we were in a position to solve, to take down that constitution and quarantine these invaders into once, because they don't own any land in Nigeria. And so, in furtherance of the embrace of that, suggestion for what to do, the U.S. got the UN to send the Agnes Callamard rapporteur mission in August of 2019. I left Washington with my team in July, end of July. 2 weeks into August, the UN mission was already in Nigeria to investigate the bloodshed happening all over the place. Fulani herdsmen were killing, Boko Haram was killing, soldiers were killing, everywhere you turn, killing. What is the problem? And so that report turned out to say that it is the Constitution of Nigeria. You can Google it, Agnes Callamard. It is the Constitution of Nigeria operating as pressure cooker for injustice. That is why the jaw is up in arms, talking about resource control. That is why people are waving Biafran flags in the east, ready to die. That is why the Yoruba is waving Odua flag, ready to die. That's why people are being slaughtered across the Middle Belt, because the Constitution of Nigeria prevents them from defending themselves from killers they can see, they can defeat, because they can't touch gun. And so when, after that designation, by June, Trump then signed an executive order to go to action, because it was at the foundation of his election. He had promised the evangelicals that he was going to do something about it. And they worked together. That was how they made contact with us, to come to explain to them what we could tell them, because we told them we had an answer, that if we take down that constitution, we are in a position to hold our spaces with guns in our hands. They won't be able to do anything of these things they are doing. It's because Abuja is using this constitution to hold that capacity away from those who are living in the danger. There's nothing they can do. There's nothing we're going to get from all of it. Unless this constitution goes down, nothing is going to change in the security arrangement or the corruption we see, or all the other things. But let's focus on the one in which the US is now ready to deploy. By the time he signed the executive order on June 2nd, 2020, there was a 180-day drawdown. To tell you, because you may think it's just a rhetoric, there was a 180-day drawdown. I'm going to send you the documents of it, and you Google it, executive order on advancing international religious freedom. That's the name of that, the executive order. And the 180-day drawdown, there were 6 agencies of the US government, including the military, the USAID, the State Department, and all the agencies that have to work together. They were given timelines. You take 90 days, you take 60 days, you take 30 days. Get yourself ready to move into the place. In fact, there was something that happened in Cameroon in that period for the US to have some foothold of where they could oversee from that flank. There was some operation in Niger. You remember when they killed some US people? They were encircling Nigeria at that time. There was something from Ghana. They moved to be in position before that mission, sets out from their side. That was how ready they were. Then, by the time the 180 days was coming to a close, November came in 2020. Election happened, and then the Democrats took over, and Biden. The first thing Biden will do with his Secretary of State Blinken, for whatever reason, they yanked Nigeria off that list. The killings are not abated. In fact, they got worse. And so
why do you think within months, right? Why do you think Biden was was able to remove Nigeria from
Was
that
able
list?
to do what?
Why do you think Biden removed Nigeria from that list? Was it as a result
It was
of
just a matter.
counter lobby?
It was just a matter of. It was just a matter of who installed Buhari as president. It was just a matter of the people, their own people. You remember how Buhari became president?
Yeah.
That it was the Democrats that had to work with this fellow who is now president here to get Buhari into office and remove Jonathan from office for whatever they were pursuing. So they shut out Jonathan. They brought in Buhari, who then began to do all of this. And then by the time we came to challenge the situation, Trump had come in 2016. Buhari came in 2015, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then Trump came, and we moved in at the time Trump came to go to tell the Trump that was willing to listen. Otherwise, the Biden and his team, Obama, John Kerry, Hillary, were all in the camp of the Buhari and whatever he chose to do. And then Bola Tinubu was the Man Friday, was the middle. He practically foisted Buhari on all of us, working with these elements in Washington. And so that was the setting in which they were able to go straight to removing Nigeria from that list as if there was no improvement at all. So immediately the election happened again and Trump came back. In fact, in the first announcement Trump made after the November 2024 election, Trump said he was retaining some executive orders, and this one was one of them. To tell you how ready things were, that was why they hit the ground running, because we had to. I'm involved in the team, directly involved. It was what we wrote that is in that file upon which Trump is acting. There's no part of what they are doing that I am not privy to, because I was the one that led the team that went to tell them what was going on in our space. And so it solved their problem. And we adopted it as how to proceed. And then here we are now. Trump comes back and he says, the problem has increased exponentially. There's nothing else to go to investigate. Nigeria knows what the problem is. They have to solve it. If they're not solving it, because America will suffer too, that they will come to. That's why the redesignation. If anybody was thinking in Nigeria, should the team that went to work with them to achieve that designation in the first place not be their first port of contact? And we were shouting since 2020 to say, we have a danger that is brewing. Let us go and solve this problem. They decided to go to election under the constitution that makes it impossible for anything else to happen than what we see now.
Mr. Nadi, we don't have much time again because your time is, you said you have another meeting. Let me quickly get to the meat of the matter here.
Right.
Could you outline the key element of NINAS 5-point proposition? What steps the Nigerian government would need to take immediately to implement it? Now, bear in mind here, can you help us break it down even for a 10-year-old to understand? One of the major recommendations is to shelve the 2027 election and initiate a transition process. Why is this necessary, and how would the process work in real terms? Recall that in 2023, you said the same thing, and the 2023 election happened. So here,
where are we now? Where are we now? Where are we now?
The 2023 election
I didn't say I was going to break the hand of those who will vote.
The question that I'm asking,
we refuse to listen to ourselves. Here
we
are now, blood all over the place.
Can you break down the 5 points for as simple as you can within the time that we have? Thank you very much.
Like doctors will do, diagnosis, prescription, and treatment.
Yes.
What is it that is of concern to America to the point where Trump is ready to proceed to war? It is the security, it is the terror that has incubated in our space on the scale that is now dangerous to them. That's the principal thing. The terror that Nigeria has allowed to fester on the scale that it has festered. Now, we who went to report that terror when it first began to grow are saying to the rest of Nigeria, because of what was achieved at the time, it was because of that interaction with Washington that Buhari did not complete his task of overrunning Nigeria with his Fulani, kinsmen from all over the 16 countries next to us. And so it is in that setting that we say today, because when Washington asks us what is the solution to this problem that is brewing in your space but will affect us, we say the Constitution of Nigeria is at the center, and they interrogated it to the point where they embraced it to say, yes, it tallied with their foreign policy decision not to be sending troops all over the world. We say we don't need any troops here. We only need to take down that constitution and rework our union. Fulani will not be able to do what they are doing if this constitution is out of the way. All of those who are, whether even the corruption and the other things that have brought Nigeria to where it's become danger to the rest of the world. And so it is in that setting that we now tell Nigeria that the people, the US, the Trump that is saying he's coming to solve the problem, we have to explain the meaning of CPC to them, country of particular concern, that the national security of the United States is suffering now in our sub-region, and America will not fold its arms to watch it grow to where it will come and bite them. And what they can do in the window, if you listen to Trump well, he said, unless you do this, we are well on our way. And he already instructed the War Secretary to get it, and they are already preparing. They already prepared before. They rolled back because Biden wasn't in that mood. They only bring in, it took 6 months to prepare before. Right now, I will be surprised if it will take them more than 4 months to put things back, because all the plans have been drawn up. Everybody was given specific mandate of what to do so that the mission can have those 6 departments working together. And so that's why we said to Nigeria, you have a small window, because they also opened that window, knowing that there's this solution that can be done. What is that solution? To take that constitution, to go to the source of the problem, to extinguish the source of that problem. It is this constitution that is the source of that problem. And what Nigeria needs to do now, if they are not waiting for America to come to do it for them, because America will come and do it, what Nigeria can do now, and which NINAS is prepared to guide them, there's no part of the package that we can't explain to them in terms of what Washington has and what Washington will be doing and what the objectives could be. To say, can we accept that we will have to now acknowledge that the unitary constitution of Nigeria is the reason Nigeria is bleeding and dying, and people are now a danger to the rest of the world, because that was part of Agnes Callamard's report. Not only is Nigeria bleeding, that Nigeria will snap. And if it snaps, 230 million people will be looking for refuge all over the place. And that Europe will, in no time, in a matter of days, be that, because, I mean, is it Benin Republic or Ghana that will take 5 or 10 million people if the place snaps? Or is it not getting ready to snap, as you can see? And so it is to make an announcement. It is to make an announcement. And that with Nigeria, from what I can see, Nigeria has only between 4 to 6 weeks real time of decide to do it by yourself. If Bola Tinubu will make an announcement today, inside November of 2025, to say that the unitary constitution of Nigeria is the reason our country is upside down, that we will decommission that constitution. That's number 2 of what has to be said. We are suspending the journey to another election in 2027 under that constitution, because if we proceed, this constitution will survive. The problems can only grow worse than they are now. We have gone election 7 times since 1999. Things have been degenerating progressively. And those who know why that is the case have been telling us, let us stop, and it won't take more than 6 months from the work we have done so far. Everybody knows what we require. We only identify the owners of the place to decide how they want to proceed, just in a transition. Thereafter, elections will continue on the basis of new constitutional arrangements. And so that announcement will be, we now recognize that this is the problem. We are prepared to solve this problem. We will suspend the elections so that we're not distracted. You can't combine anything with the election. Solving this problem. Okay. It's not business for National Assembly or anybody else. It is something that the owners of the sovereignty will have. So suspend the election. We will suspend the election to go and deal with it sooner, now, rather than later. And then the number 4 thing that will be contained is that the peoples of the land, the Yoruba of Yoruba land, the Ijo of Ijo land, the Igbo of Igbo land, are the sovereign constituent components of Nigeria, are the ones that will be going into that discussion on a 2-stage basis. In the first stage, they will work out the constitutions by which they federate. Yoruba will be a federating unit with their own constitution. The internal arrangement, administrative arrangements to be 40 units of states or council. That's their internal business. But the constitutions that will federate in a federation are the ones that will now distill in the second layer, the union constitution. And so it becomes the business of the owners of the sovereignty. In 1914, they were not called in. In 1999, they were not called in. In all the years in between, they were never called in. They are being held at gunpoint in a union that is killing them. And they have done the work of discussing among themselves. That's what we have done for 26 years. To say, Ijo now knows that this is what needs to happen. Yoruba now knows that this is what has to happen. And the only people who are in this, who are not in agreement with everybody, are the Fulani that are invading from outside. They don't own 1 square inch of land in Nigeria, for goodness sake. Why are they the ones dictating to everybody, shooting at everybody, killing everybody? Didn't you hear Isa Ebuba the other day? Himself, a Fulani man. And so that is that 5 points. If that announcement is made today, the temperature will come down. And then if it's followed up by little action of setting timelines, because the 5th item is time-bound transition. That is to say, as we suspend this election, we have 2 years or so, whatever is left of Tinubu's tenure. We don't need more than 6 to 9 months. If it takes 12 months, or the balance of the tenure, so that we can go to referendum and all of that, that is the best thing we can do. You can see the economic reforms are not working because the constitutional arrangements are bad.
I just need to remind you that it is now 9 o'clock. If you still have 1 minute, I have one more question before you go.
Right.
Well, okay.
I can't even see my own timepiece. What it is now?
No, it is 9 o'clock, exactly 9 o'clock. So because you told me you have.
It won't take more than 3 minutes for me to dismiss what I have. Just do something else with the time. Leave it as it is. I put on my camera. Just come back in a moment.
Okay.
It won't be more. It won't be 3 minutes.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much. We will.
Right.
Okay. So
just hold on.
No, it's fine. It's fine. At this point, in this meeting also, I have John Gregg here joining me from the United States of America. John, good evening from this part of the world.
Good evening, Muzzy. Welcome.
Yeah, good evening, John.
No.
Okay. I saw that in one of the meetings with Mike Arnold, the fellow whom I had, I think 2 days ago, an interview with, the one whom Reno Omokri with the NSA brought into Nigeria to tell the truth. And when he told the truth, they weren't happy. Now, you have followed all these stories from the issue with CPC and the meetings you guys had over the weekend. And what do you have to tell Nigerians regarding what your president had said? Because there is a lot of confusion in Nigeria. People are saying America is going to invade Nigeria. America is coming. America, you should stay in your own country. And, and it appears that, there is another school of thought that says, well, those of you who are saying that America is coming are actually mistaken, because America did not say they're going to come for Nigerians. They said they're going to come and deal with the terrorists, unless those who are afraid are terrorists. So in all this confusion and convolution, what's your take?
Listen, I can't speak for the president.
Yeah.
I don't sit on his staff. He didn't call me. He didn't ask my opinion. So you need to understand what I'm going to say is what I think, what I've heard other Igbo in the diaspora think. And so take it for what that's worth. What we just heard from Tony, that has been the last point, specifically on the Constitution, that has been floating on the tongues of many serious Igbo leaders from the Southeast, and not just the Igbo in the Southeast, but the South, the Middle Belt, even people from the Southwest. We've had a lot of interaction over the years, the recent years, about what's going on in the country. And the whole point about the fact that the current the current constitution that exists in the land, it's not really a federation. The word federation is starting to disappear. Other things have shown up. The 1999 Constitution is really quite a different document than the 1961 that was put in place when the game started. There is such a high interest among people to see a true federation where everybody's got a say, where the group is divided up into zones and regions, but each zone and region has autonomy. And it's the way the federation's set up in the United States. That's
Yeah,
the way it should be. And it's
Sure.
not. And so the fact that the president, listen, I heard about the discussion with the previous administration and now with President Trump. President Trump, he wants peace. He said it 1,000 times in the media. He wants peace. He's serious about that. The Americans are serious about that. We're not big on sending troops anymore. In fact, even in the recent uh, activity that took place in Iran, in the Middle East, it didn't involve people with boots on the ground, really. It was, we as a country we don't want to be at war with anybody. We especially don't want to be at war, quite frankly, with Nigeria, an ally of ours. The thing is, what serious words, though, need to be shared, and whatever it takes in terms of what needs to be said so that what's going on in Nigeria today stops. It's got to stop. And whether the Christian is a real obvious example.
Okay.
There's been tens of thousands of churches blown to the ground.
What are Nigerians missing here? I hear you. You talked about the rejigging Nigeria into regions. When I read some people, I read, I can't remember the name, but there is this guy from Austria representing NATO, and he started writing that Nigeria should be broken down, right? And I hear what you're saying now, that Nigeria should be rejigged. But what Trump is saying is stop the killing or the mass killing of Christians. Wouldn't Nigerians, when they listen to the narrative of getting Nigeria reworked and the president saying something else, doesn't it feel like there is a hand behind the scene, not necessarily listening to what Trump is saying, but sort of pulling a different agenda to use what Trump has said to achieve certain aim in Nigeria? Don't you think that's what is happening? Or you think Nigerians are paranoid in this sense?
They're paranoid. Take it easy. Sit back, have a little bit of palm wine, and take it easy. That's what I would do. I would. The matter of the fact is, Trump, and it's not just President Trump, many Americans, including myself, but I view myself as an Igbo American. All of us want to see peace. And what's going on today, it's not peaceful. There's a lot of lying that goes on. And when they're asked, what are you doing? Oh, we don't know. We have no idea what's going on. They know what's going on. People know what's going on. Even the people on the floor have a point of view. They have a point of view within the country, within Nigeria, what's going on. I think what needs to happen is some really clear, frank, honest conversation, which is going to take place tomorrow. I would like to be in that room. It's going to be some really frank conversation that's going to go on. And the thing is, a threat from the big 850-pound gorilla is meaningful. It's meaningful.
So what
And
you're
the
saying,
matter of the fact is, he would not, I don't, listen, this is once again just my point of view.
Yeah.
There's no incentive for the United States to go and drop weapons and stuff
in Nigeria.
No, that's wacko. That I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's part of the threat machine. It's
Okay.
part of the negotiation. And I say that it needs to stop, and we need to go federation-wise. That will truly please everybody in the country, maybe but for the Fulani. And
Okay.
at the end of it, it's got to happen.
Okay, before Tony comes back, let me pick your brain on this as well. You said
What's
tomorrow.
left of it you can do.
Yeah. So, let me, you said that tomorrow there is going to be an honest conversation. Why do you think in these conversation that ought to be president to president, that the Nigerian president is flying into America, and it took Trump to have made tweets, and within 72 hours, the Nigerian president is flying into America to have a conversation? Do you think at the end of the day that it's going to be a win for Nigeria, that the Nigerian president could actually turn this into an opportunity and a partnership with America to help to fight and eliminate those who are killing Nigerians?
I think there is. And I think, Mazi, if the president called you up and said, come tomorrow, would you get on a plane, go meet with him?
If he gives me
yes
a ticket,
or no?
I will.
Yes is the answer to that question. There's no doubt that President Tinubu would say yes to this opportunity. It really, that's not surprising that he would say yes. But I think the matter of the fact is he knows his country's in tough shape. The GDP's half, it's less than half of what it was 5-6 years ago. It's going into the pit. I've been personally working all kinds of business opportunities to try and get the countries to link together to become partners. But you know what? It's very difficult when partners who they even see in the back of their mind, I can see it when I'm talking with the various people, they can see it in the back of their mind. Partnership would be great with an American companies. It would be great to have a real partnership over there with people we could trust and get business going. And it would just spur on the whole thing. Security would go up because you would have financial security. They'd love to do that. But at the end of the day, today, the way it is with this mess, people are nervous. They just walk away. I've been in so many meetings with ideas that I know would work anywhere I could walk in with the business idea that we've had, many of them, and they'd say, we're on. Where do we sign up? Here's extra money. Here's extra. We'll make it happen. But when it comes to Nigeria, the moment they say, I mean, does Nigeria have to be the place we do this? And I say, I only work on things for Nigeria. They get up, they go to the restroom, and they don't come back. And it's unbelievable. If we fix this, this is going to turn things around. And Nigeria will then be in a spot to be a partner and not just a place where the U.S. and other people come in and use it as a resource dump where they can take resources away from the country. None of that crap anymore. We need partnership.
Okay.
And if we fix this, partnership's in front of us.
Okay. Now, before I go back to Tony, let me ask you this final question. Do you think there is anywhere that your country has it at the back of their mind, let's invade Nigeria and take their resources? Because, I mean, why can't we do it if we have the power to?
I don't think so. Why would they do that? It doesn't make sense. The matter of the fact is, Nigeria, it should be one of the largest working democracies in the world. I mean, in a matter of 25 years, it's going to be the biggest democracy in the world in terms of population. That's going to happen. And so there's no incentive. This might even been what was going on before in the previous administration to let go of calling Nigeria a country of concern. It is a country of concern. They fail on every single check on the list. They should have been a country of concern, should have never been reduced. But maybe that was what was going on in the back of those guys' minds in the previous administration. Today, it's not just Trump, by the way. There are many senators who signed letters, wrote letters to the United Nations, wrote letters to the Secretary of States at the time, one in 2019, one in 2021, one in 2023. They wrote letters, and a bunch of senators signed it saying they need to get back on the list. We got to get the Christian thing right. And, you know, once again, the Christian thing's a big thing in the US. More than half the population's Christian. It makes sense. Why would they mention a lot of other stuff that's small? Go with the big one and write the letter on that. Quite frankly, the law, as Tony was saying, the law was written for all religions. It says countries of particular concern when it comes to religion. It doesn't say when it comes to Christianity. It's religion. And so it was you know what? It was an easy stick to hold up. That counts. It counts for people. And so, and it counts for Americans. It counts for the Nigerians, no matter what religion they've got. And there are a lot of, as you know, everybody on this call, you know that moderate Muslims, the Christians, they're all under a lot of heat. It's the terrorist faction that's causing the trouble. And we all know who that is too. You know, when I grew up, and I'll close with this because you said you were closing with that. I'm going to close with this. When I was a boy, my dad was a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps, a very tough hombre. And you know what? I learned way, way early in my life that you got to stop lying. And when you start believing your own, you say that this stuff over and over again, lies, you actually start to believe your own lies. That is a dangerous situation. Nigeria's got a few people who believe their own lies. They got to stop that. I liked what Tony said, by the way. I'm in agreement on just about everything he said. And Tony's got that kind of, he's got that energy that's infectious. And he starts talking louder and louder and louder. And I said, he's serious now. I know he's serious.
Thank you very much, John.
All right.
You know,
God
thank
bless.
you for joining us. You can still stay. We might have one or two questions for you within that. Now, Tony,
Okay, I'll
thank you
stay
for
as long as I can.
Yeah. So, Tony, thank you for coming back.
Right.
You know, you talked about in the 5 points that you presented to the, or rather, that NINAS is pushing forward. You said that has been presented also to the US government. Now, the most key point for me there is America helping to rework the Constitution, right? And
not America.
Okay.
We wanted them to understand
that
we will have to rework the foundation upon which we are building to contain these elements that are coming from everywhere to turn our lives off. Now,
I see. You know, I take that. So the reworking of the Constitution by us, by Nigerians, by the indigenous people is the key point and the key takeaway here. Now, my question is, if you say that the government of America understood what you were pushing for, why then is there no mention of any form of restructuring in Nigeria? Rather, they stuck with the killing of those in Nigeria. That's part A of that question. The part B is, in reworking Nigerian constitution, for instance, now those are elected by the people that have, you know, in social contract, they've wielded their powers, the power of representation within the states, within the senatorial districts. They are now reworking that constitution. Don't you think that that which you seek for constituent assembly to come and do, that those representatives who are now elected are doing the same? You take that. Thank you very much.
Are you done?
Yes, go ahead.
My understanding, because it was going for it at some point, you were asking why the US are not talking about restructuring,
yes,
and then why the National
That's
Assembly.
two-part questions,
Yes. Now, I take the first one first.
Yeah.
Why the US is not talking about restructuring, and we are talking as if, sorry, we are in the place of darkness.
Is it?
But wait, let's just go on. Let me.
I think it's
get rid of.
I think it's an up-NEPA moment, right?
Yes, and
okay.
Actually, I have.
Yes, go ahead.
I speak on. So there's some light will come up.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Now, the US has to work with their own laws. Remember, I am a lawyer with specialty in jurisprudence And so I speak to the situation as one who is actually the expert to be consulted if other countries have this kind of a problem, to trace it to the root. The US had to work with the law they already have. They are not to come to dictate to the next country how to make their own laws. Their concern is the killings going on, which is happening to Christians. There may be other elements in the mix, but basically, there is a law in place in the US that is called International Religious Freedom Act, meaning that the US committed itself to going to anywhere in the world where people are being killed on account of their faith. Remember the founding of the US itself. Who were those who founded the US? People running away from religious persecution in Europe. And so the US is at the foundation of their own, which was why they had to commit themselves to going to help anywhere, anyone, anywhere. It doesn't have to be Christians. It could be Muslims that were being, remember the Rohingya, all kinds of incidents. Because I remember when we came in 2019, there were also cases from the international, the IRF ministerial roundtables. There were cases from other countries of people who were religious minorities that were looking for help in that same period too. And so they will not go talk about restructure. You trace the reason people are being killed. We were able to trace our own to the constitution that was imposed on us by this caliphate that now wants to own Nigeria to the exclusion of the owners, the indigenous peoples that could have been countries of their own, if not for the failed Lugadian experiment that has become toxic in our space, the one you call Nigeria. And so they are working with the law they have, and that was why it took 7 whole months to work it out in such a way that it could deliver the outcome they seek and the outcome we seek. That's on the one side. So they're not going to talk about restructuring. They want the killings to stop. We have identified our constitution as the chief enabler of those killings. If this constitution goes down today, I tell you, in less than 3 months, you will not hear of anybody killing anybody in anything, because everybody would then take charge of organizing their security. Your governor in your state cannot issue one rifle, cannot make any law, cannot enforce any law of his own on his own. It has to be Abuja that will come to enforce even the list of laws. The court orders are not enforced, except the federal government wants it enforced, because you require policemen to go to enforce even order of court, isn't it? And so all the guns in Nigeria are in the hands of this federal government, even for prison, even for immigration, even for any agency that will use gun, belong to the federal government of Nigeria. How are they going to be? And if that federal government is now manned by people who do not wish you well, who have come in genocide against you, the eastern side of Nigeria, the Igbo in Nigeria, for instance, they've been through genocide that was orchestrated by the rest of Nigeria, who now formed a joint venture to have a federal government that excludes them. Meanwhile, 80% of the oil Nigeria is selling is coming from that space. They have no interest in discussing how it could ever change. The 36 states they created and the 704 local government areas they created, all by that constitution, by decree. So Nigeria is not my project. Nigeria is not our project. Nigeria has been imposed on us, and we are being slaughtered. We are being expropriated. We are being excluded from anything that could lead us anywhere. We can't elect who will govern us because elections are on that exclusive list. Imagine the day where elections in the US will happen, and some group of Mexicans who have managed to gather in one corner of California are the ones who have to come to organize elections in Texas or in Pennsylvania. That's what it is, because INEC is sitting in Abuja in that constitution on the exclusive list, and so they might decide to process any kind of charlatan or criminal to put in charge. Look at the kind of people that represent you in your Senate. Look at the governors you have. Which of them will have become anything, even council chairman, if it is our people that will select, that will process them like we have in every federation? So we have 68 such items. That's why Nigeria become the embarrassment it has become. That's why the black man is where he is today, on account of the fact that we have a constitution that lock out everything positive from our life. If I can't generate, I need electricity. I can generate that electricity. But the constitution of Nigeria forbids me from generating electricity. I have the gas I need. I have the water if it is turbine. I have everything I need to generate electricity. I built a power plant in Oji River long ago that was serving everywhere up to Calabar. Suddenly, this constitution comes and I'm no longer able to generate electricity. How am I to build an economy without electricity? How am I to build an economy without security? How am I to build an economy without infrastructure, without ports, without railway? Those are the things locked down by this constitution. Every means of production is confiscated by this constitution. And so it becomes an existential threat to me and all of those who are in that condition. And the people doing it don't belong to Nigeria. They have managed to recruit some criminals to join them in what they're doing.
Okay.
You understand? So that's how, and then you are going to the second question. Can you hear me still?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Right. Let's just carry on. Going to the second question of the representatives. Mazes, okay. I'm saying it for the umpteenth time on your program. And I pray it doesn't cost us blood before we come to listen to it. The National Assembly does not have constituent powers to make constitution for me or anybody. Constitution making is the exclusive business of the owners of the sovereignty that could have been countries of their own, if not for Nigeria that is conscripting their sovereignty into a union. And so the business of National Assembly is lawmaking. Constitution making is a far higher transaction than lawmaking. And so if they were elected for whatever reason under this constitution that we are rejecting, and they've been there, and we're saying, let us go to transition. We're not asking them to leave government house. We're not anarchists. We're saying, stay where you are. Like South Africa did in 1990. Was it not the same problem that South Africa had to solve? That the Boers seized their territory, like the Fulanis have seized the Nigerian territory from everybody who owned it. And so imposing a constitution that makes it impossible for anybody to challenge them. How did the South Africa solve apartheid? Was it not transition that they announced in 1990 and they got the owners of the sovereignty to come? Was it the parliament in South Africa that sorted it out? It was the owners of the sovereignty that sat down. It took them 5 years, but we've done most of the work. It shouldn't take us more than 6 months now to do and go to referendum with whatever anything anybody is doing. Look at anybody still talking about National Assembly. But what will happen to Constitution is committing treason. And this matter will soon boil down to rifle shot. Because if anybody is coming to attack on account of what Trump has declared now, if they're coming, is it only people in government house that they're going to be attacking? The whole place will turn into a turmoil in some form. People are going to identify who brought us to this. I will be one of those. I'll be one of those looking for those who subscribe to this constitution, who swear to defend and uphold this constitution as the first line of attack for me. If I have a rifle loaded in that commotion, and there are Fulani people coming from the left, and I see people who were willing to contest the election under this constitution, any one of them, including my twin brother, I will offload the entire magazine on those who enable, because it is this constitution that is enabling these killings, enabling the invasion, enabling the expropriation, enabling the corruption, enabling everything we lament, everything that has brought Nigeria to where it is. And what is that Nigeria without the Nigerians? Today, you don't have anybody that is Nigerian. Who is Bola Tinubu is going to mobilize with your flag? I'm not going to be mobilized with that flag because I'm excluded. The Yoruba will not be mobilized under that flag. The Ijaw will not be mobilized under that flag. The young people they shot at the toll gate on the other time will not be mobilized under that flag. So who is the Nigerian? You have a Nigeria without Nigerians. And we're saying, let us go and solve the problem. Has it not been long enough ruining our lives? The whole of the black man, everywhere he is on earth, is being treated as shit because of Nigeria. And Nigeria is where it is because of this constitution. And we have a number of people we know, people we've worked with in the past. Where was Bola Tinubu coming from? Was it not from Nadeko he became governor in Lagos? There's nothing I've said here that has not been discussed with him 1 million times in private. So now the US will have to come to discuss it with him with rifles and missiles.
Yeah, but some will argue that some of the things in terms of the Constitution that he is beginning to unbundle them, like the issue of the state police that will give more
Those people
security
saying
to
those
the
things are
region.
lunatics. Why is it they want to decide for me? The first complaint, the major complaint, is that preamble that lied that we, the peoples of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that means the Yoruba that could be country of 70 million people, the Igbo and their neighbors that could be country of 80 million people, and everyone in their spaces who could have been countries of their own. Are there not countries that are less than 5 million, 3 million, 2 million people on earth? You lump all of them together and you say, we, the peoples of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So you are putting my signature on a document that had nothing to do with, that now makes you the owner of my land and all my economic resources, that gives you the license to hold all the guns in the land to my exclusion, that gives you the license to put infrastructure where you want. What is the business with Lagos that has port and Port Harcourt that will not have port? Is it not the same Atlantic waterfront? Less than 15 minutes maneuver if you have a fast craft. But we have been stuck with having to come to queue in Lagos, and people wrote it down. And Port Harcourt was working before they locked it up. Railways shut down. Who can build without electricity and railway and ports? And the right to even, there's nothing there's no innovation you can do. All the things you can do to improve your society are confiscated by this monster of a federal government. What is the federal government? The Fulani and their Yoruba, the renegade wing of the Yoruba that decide to work with them. And they've been rotating between themselves who will govern, and they'll begin to talk about piecemeal. That preamble that says, we the people solemnly and firmly resolve to live in unity as one indivisible union. Therefore, making and giving unto ourselves the following constitution. Every single provision of that constitution is flowing from that falsehood. We are building on a foundation of falsehood. We are building on a foundation that will collapse like a pack of cards. I know where I've been. I've been to places where most of them will never be able to go, even as president. I've been to the UN. I've been to Security Council, where we got the instrument that now defines self-determination for everybody in the world. I had the privilege of sending Wole Soyinka to go to Kofi Annan to say, Africa is boiling because we have ethnic domination questions. And they've tried for over 45 years up to that point to solve that problem. It wasn't solved. But when we managed to solve it, we now have something in our hands that entitles us to the relief we seek. So the contents of the Constitution, whether we were going to be in 36 states or 7 and 4 local government areas or have exclusive lists, is not the business of anybody sitting in Abuja today. They are committing treason against us because they have confiscated our sovereignty into a document we did not make, and they put our signature on it. And you expect that entity to grow. Nigeria, under this constitution, is a criminal enterprise. Anybody who is prepared to swear to govern by this constitution, whether it's president or governor or senator, is committing a crime that is higher than any other crime you can imagine, because they are ruining the lives of hundreds of millions of people. And we say, we have done all the work to solve the problem. If they refuse to come along even at this time, 26 years after 1999 is time long enough, both for them and the international community. Anybody who has anything to do in Nigeria, let us stop and go and fix this matter. If they don't want to stop, something will stop them.
Tony, thank you very much. As we round up, let me piggyback to the core essence of this. Now, given that the United States has given what seems like a 3 months window for Nigeria to act, and our president is scheduled to be there tomorrow, and I just had a feed that I think that meeting of tomorrow is rescheduled or moved. I don't have the new date.
Nobody gave them appointment to come to any meeting. I can assure you. I know what they are trying to do. They are creating.
So can you tell us? So they want
Nobody
to
gave
go to
them. I will be shocked. You can bet anything. You can bet anything. Trump cannot be called into that kind of stupidity.
So
Bayo
are you
Onanuga is telling you
saying
he has
that
meeting
are
with
you
who?
saying they are playing politics with it? They want to go to Washington
What else
DC?
have they done? Imagine Matthew Kuka saying that nobody's killing that is not Christians being killed in Nigeria. He's from Southern Kaduna. They are killing his people. Now he's renting. You saw when they rented bishops as we were going to election, they rented people to now begin to say that the Kuka is looking for his friends to join him in saying that nobody is not so, it's not quite so. They sent Oshibajo while I was in Washington in 2019 to come to lie that nobody was killing anybody. Did Oshibajo not come on the same mission? What is Tinubu going to tell Trump today
So
if you want to ask, if you want to be
let me come
admitted
back
into
to
a
my
meeting?
let me come back to my question. Given that the US has given what seems like 3 months window
It's not.
for
It's not.
Nigerians,
They say go and fix it, otherwise we'll come and do it by ourselves. I'm
exactly.
hinting them
So
what it means.
now the
I'm telling
question
them what it
is,
means. That
if
if
we
you
are
go to solve the problem, they may not come.
if Bayo Onanuga and Bola Tinubu and his men are listening now, what immediate action do you believe the government must do as we speak to de-escalate this crisis that is brewing?
That kind of announcement that South Africa made in 1990 to commit to decommissioning the apartheid constitution, to bring about a meeting of the owners of the sovereignty to discuss what will replace apartheid constitution. That is the one narrow window left for Nigeria to take the initiative in solving this problem. We then go into transition. That announcement can be made inside November. If there's anybody that has any, we dealt with this matter when Obasanjo was there. Yar'Adua sent Tinubu to us when they elected him. Tinubu had been governor in Lagos and was more associated with us than anybody else. So Yar'Adua sent him to come to discuss with us how we could come into government. He offered us 5 ministerial slots, 10 ambassadorial positions. Tinubu may be listening to this broadcast now, or whoever can take it to him. Let him deny that Yar'Adua, the president, did not send him after the election of 2007 to come to talk with us and offer us a slot inside government so that we could deal with this matter from inside government. Otherwise, that the constitution may collapse on all of us because we went to court to say we didn't make the constitution. And so Yar'Adua took ill. It didn't go beyond that. Then Jonathan took over. Jonathan had the discipline to listen. Jonathan committed to solving the problem. Jonathan set up the conference of 2014, and then the same alliance of the Northwest and the renegade wing of the Yoruba, led by Bola Tinubu, decided to push Jonathan out, proceed to election, which they won in 2015 by brigandage. That's how we got to not solving that problem in that period. Then Buhari comes, it got far worse. Then Tinubu rides on the back of what they have put in place. Here we are. The place has collapsed. If we can't tell ourselves the truth and roll up our sleeves to go to solve it, those who may be affected by our stupidity are going to step in. And I'm telling them now on behalf of NINAS, on behalf of all of those who have worked across this last 26 years. We're not you now led the oil industry in 1998. I'm not an idle person. As a lawyer, I know what I could do if I were to go back to say I want to practice that now. But the lives of millions of people are at stake. The life of the black man is going nowhere, including the ones that went on slave ships to America. They go nowhere until we solve this problem. And we have identified the core of the problem as this constitution that can be resolved in a matter of weeks or months if we want to solve it. If they refuse, we will have to devise whatever means, whatever. There's no other war worse than the war in which, do you know the number of people that die in Nigeria every day because this constitution is in place and they do not care. They share trillions and billions every month. They ride about in private jets and the rest of people can go and die and they think it's sustainable.
Now, okay, I hear you loud and clear. But the question then is, what role do you see for ordinary Nigerians, civil society groups, and regional leaders in pushing for this adoption of NINAS framework? Because at the end of the day, NINAS is offering the government 5 points, as a way out. If this
it has offered Nigeria and Nigerians since December of 2020. This ship will sink let us return to harbor and fix it. They refused. They kept selling.
Yeah, but
Locked everybody out.
they keep refusing. That's hence my question.
So
What role do you see that ordinary
when
Nigerians and civil society can play?
We told them before, we're telling them again. The only thing we have asked the rest of Nigeria, the populace that is dying from all kinds of causes, and the civil society people that pretend they want democracy. We can't have a democracy with apartheid, worse than apartheid constitution. What we're asking them to do, can you dress back from all the suggestions of the past that hasn't worked? Election free and fair, and all kinds of corruption fights, and examine with a view to adopting that 5-point proposition of NINAS to say it becomes their demand. When NSAS was going on, you know how it erupted. It wasn't as if anybody planned it. It erupted from Benin and then spread everywhere. We went to look for them. I made 5 broadcasts, 4 of them from that Lagos Lekki toll gate, that place where they eventually shot them. There was a UK TV station that took it live to say, we went to the organizers we could identify to say, reduce your demands to one item, that this constitution, the whole country has been shut down. Can you announce this as your demand? Because it will solve the SARS, it will solve the electricity, it will solve the infrastructure, it will solve the corruption if the government is made to commit to doing away with this constitution. They refused because they wanted to get into power. The Buhari was promising them not too young to run and all kinds of foolish things until they shot at them, until they killed them. Now, subsequently, we've gone to Labour Congress, the Bar Association, the 5 administrations from the time Olisa Abokoba became the president of the Bar Association. Call Olisa Abokoba and ask him whether we discuss this matter. What have the lawyers in Nigeria said about this constitution that's about to sink this country? So we say, unless you have a better proposition for how we can solve this existential threat, we are asking the populace, we are asking the civil society people to leave everything else and adopt this proposition as their demand. As their demand. It does, if it everything, just those 5 things, I can put them in one sentence. That this constitution is the source of our problem. We have to solve it now. We will not go to another election under it. The owners of the land will have to decide, and we have to do it in this time frame. That is all. If they adopt it today, then those who are preparing to go to election will have to dress back until we solve the problem.
Sure.
If they don't, I tell you, they'll pay in blood.
Okay. Now, if they don't, because my final question is actually if Nigeria fails to act within the time frame, or what do you foresee happening? But I think you've answered the question that if they fail, they will pay in blood. Is that should Nigerians?
If they fail to do it, if they fail to do it now that they can be on the table doing it under the roof, Nigeria has now to choose between Nepal, because the young people are listening to you now. They've tried everything else. They voted at the election. Did Peter Obi not win that election? Did he not get enough votes to win? Why is he not president? Because the young people thought, okay, we've gone to do NSAS, they shot at us. Let us go by a democratic process and elect the one who can listen and do better. What happened? So we have to choose now between Nepal that can happen, or Gaza that can repeat, or NINAS while we can.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tony Nnadi. It's been a wonderful time listening to you. I believe that the government is listening, and the people that serve within the government are also here and that they listen. It's been a wonderful time. Thank you very much. Even in the midst of all the challenges that we had, you were still able to maintain the connectivity. At the same time, I thank you, John Greg, for joining us from the United States of America. It's been a pleasure from this side of the world. I say thank you. Oh, eventually you, Tony, you come up now.
It came on since I just forgot to put it on.
Okay.
So where's John Greg in the U.S.?
I'm just outside of Indianapolis.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
If I listen real close, I can hear Washington, D.C., so I'm going to be paying attention.
Right. I had town halls all across because our senators who were on the task in Washington say go around, tell all of those who are complaining about one thing, so that you have a plan that can work here. So we went around. I went across almost 21 states. In Texas alone, there were town halls in Houston, in Dallas, in Austin, and all kinds of other places in between. In California, in the Bay Area alone, Oakland and all of the five town halls apart from California and the rest of the like that, all across saying this is what the problem is. None of them knows what the problem is. They just say corruption. Corruption is not from the sky. Corruption is written here. The mandate to steal is in black and white. The immunity from being probed, I cannot ask them even if I find them stealing. There's immunity clause that prevents me from holding them accountable. The guns are in the hands of those who can use it and without consequence. So how will we have anything less than what we have now in terms of, or worse than better than what we have now? So it's a very straightforward thing. It can be solved in less than 6 months if we want to solve it. But if we choose not to solve it, I tell you, those who are choking, including myself, are going to devise whatever we can to stop those who swear to defend and uphold this. And that now includes every political party and people who are willing to contest election under this, because when they win, they will swear to defend and uphold my damnation.
Thank you.
Sorry for.
I think
Done.
that's a very fine place to leave it today, Tony. It has been firebrand as always. Thank you very much for joining us, John. Thank you very much for being
Mazi, thanks a lot.
part of this
Tony,
conversation.
good to see you and hear you.
Thank you, sir.
And good night, everyone. Thank you, Tony.